So just very briefly, I know some of you and probably most of you have some idea about my past, but just to say that I've been a radical left activist since I was 15 at Auckland Girls Grammar, the bastion of conservatism at the time. Sure, you one from eggs. I had to leave early. And I was never invited to join the Old Girls Association. My first involvement in politics was through the progressive youth movement that not many of you will be old enough to remember, and involvement in the mobilisations and actions against the Vietnam War. I was first arrested occupying the US consulate in Auckland when I was 16, and I've been involved in many different struggles since that time, but probably most significantly in the unemployed workers movement in Auckland and around Aotearoa in the 80s and 90s. And then, of course, going inside the system to Parliament for 10 years, much to my surprise, for the Green Party. Since I came out of Parliament in 2009, I spent 3 years doing a PhD at AUT around the question of a need for a left-wing think tank or think tanks in this country, because there are none, not that cross all issues, or there weren't at that time. But my thesis actually became even more about the state of the left. So that's just a little bit about my background. Yeah, I'm not used to it. Is there any chance I can talk like this?
This one should be on.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. And I can also turn this one up quite a bit so you're very
and forward is here. Cool. One of the things I really need to say is to make it clear where I stand, because I'm aware I'm very conscious of ideology and position, and I'm not pretending here to stand or be part that I represent in any way, or I'm part of all what we might think of as the left. I'm very much out of what I would call the radical left, which is, in an attempt at a very quick definition, defined as this: a commitment to economic, social and ecological justice, grounded in Te Reti o Waitangi, and that it's anti-capitalist and beyond capitalist. I do not accept that capitalism is good enough and that reforming capitalism is good enough. We've got to start both resisting it and moving beyond it now. It's an all-encompassing system that affects every aspect of our lives, and unless we're prepared to confront and move beyond it, we'll never make change. So that's the position I come from, and I realise that not everyone here will come from that position. That's cool, but that's where I stand. For many years I've believed that there's three main ways of making change. The first is what I loosely call throwing rocks against the system, the actions we do outside, our street protests, occupations, picket strikes, mobilisations, the sort of activity many of us in this room are doing a couple of weeks ago against the TPP signing. Secondly, of course, really important, the struggles inside the system, existing institutions ranging from Parliament and the public service through to academic institutions, trade unions, anywhere that's of institutional form, going in there and trying to do your best inside. That's really important as well. But thirdly, and the other area which I think we just must never forget, and an area I've been very involved in as well, is the need to build our own organisations, autonomous organisations, economic, social, political, inside the rotten system of capitalism. Because unless we start, all our life is like rehearsal. There is no perfection. We can dream of utopia, but if we wait for utopia or wait for a revolution, it ain't never going to happen. We can practice utopia, we can practice making a revolution, we practice in our lives the kind of organisations that we want to live. And I've spent a lot of my life doing that as well. And I think critical for me in making change is that we understand that there's different places at different times in our lives. We'll be in different places, and that's cool, and that we should respect each other for being in whichever place at that time. So if you're an MP, don't put down the people that are out on the streets engaging with the police. You know, if you're a public servant, support the radical left think tank, and many do. And so like, we can be in different places and still respect and support each other's struggle. What I'm doing now in 2016 in practice, first of all, I'm very involved with Auckland Action Against Poverty, which we set up in 2010 as a fighting unemployed workers and beneficiaries group, taking action on jobs unemployment, the welfare system and poverty, and increasingly housing because of the desperate crisis in Auckland right now. We also do day-to-day beneficiary advocacy, helping people in their real lives every day by working with people who are in a desperate, absolutely beyond desperate situation because of what this government and what the system is doing to them. It's a reality. I work with every single day along with others in this room. The second group I'm very involved in is Kotari Trust, which some of you have been part of workshops up there, up at Hortio North near Welsford. Since 1999 we've been running workshops and programs in all sorts of areas, ecological, treaty, social justice, unions, young activists, a huge range of issues and groups, really using Freirean pedagogy, participatory adult education to strengthen leadership and sub-leadership, to strengthen organisation and help some of us older activists and people from across different sectors to strengthen our work in whatever struggle we're engaged in or local community action. The third group I'm involved in at the moment is the new one, which came out of my thesis research, which is Economic and Social Research Aotearoa, our new radical left think tank. If anyone, I don't have time to talk about it today, but if anyone is not part of our network and would like to be involved in our work or support it, please approach me while I'm here today and I can give you more information, and you're very welcome to become part of our network. But this is really inspired by many years for some of us on the radical left, knowing that there was no place where we could deepen our thinking and deepen the public policy discourse in this country. And I saw in Parliament how weak policy development is inside parties like Labour and the Greens, and then I had an experience of 3 years in Manga as well, and how much a place where we can think together and get the best thinking from our universities and scholars, get the best thinking from our activist thinkers and intellectuals, and pull that together and turn it into an intellectual tool that will inform all our struggles. So that's what think tanks about. So key features of the work I'm engaged in at the moment, as I've said already, the need to build our own autonomous organisations that aren't accountable to anyone. Auckland Action Against Poverty is quite significant in the sense it is now the only fighting unemployment beneficiary group in Aotearoa. Back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, we had up to 32 groups. Now there's only one. Our community sector has been colonised. People are frightened to speak out, or they can't because of funding and contracts. Anyone that works in the sector will know what's happened, the chilling effect and colonising impact in the community sector. There are very few autonomous community-based fighting organisations left. That's a whole area of struggle where heaps more work needs to happen. Secondly is the importance of education, research and analysis, deepening that. And always, as Steve was starting to talk about as well, the need to put up alternatives and solutions in whatever sector we work in to provide a vision of the future of how things could be. Because if we don't have anything to work towards or understanding of what things could look like, we will not inspire others to build that future with us. What to the person who mentioned UBI, that's been always a critical solution as part of the young work that I've been doing, as long as it's a progressive UBI. Because there's very, very right-wing forms of it. Thirdly, it's critical that we continue to resist capitalism. We don't go bang on all the time about the problems. There's heaps of analysis about inequality now, about the impacts of poverty, poor housing, low wages and benefits. We understand what's going on. What's important, more important, is to resist and to advocate for change and not just say, oh, what a pity. We need to work for change now, not just wait. Some of the dangers I've seen over the years, and sorry if I offend anyone, because there's nothing wrong with these things, but the problem comes if they become paramount. I've seen the weakening effect of some of these. In the Green Party particularly, I often come across people who argued with me and said that if we each achieve full consciousness in the sense of any faith or spirituality, that if we achieve high consciousness in ourselves, that in itself will transform our world. Now, that's fine. I totally support what they're doing there, but where it becomes a problem if you think that as an individual achieving higher consciousness will somehow change anything else. Do you do anything beyond that? The second danger I've seen, again, a lot on the Green Party side of things, and all of this is good, recycling, gardening, biking, but so often it's like if you do that, if you're good about yourself, that's cool, that's enough. you stop there. And thirdly, nothing wrong with transition towns and all those movements, but so often I used to live up in Rodney and thinking about Matakana. I don't know if you know Matakana, beautiful slow food movement, farmers market, permaculture, organic farming. It's a real centre for that, and that's beautiful. But what happens for the beneficiaries down the road? What happens for Māori up the road? What happens for all the people in the city who've got nowhere to live? You can make the most beautiful place for you, but if you don't address the structural issues and look beyond your beautiful little community, again, I think that's just selling out to capitalism, even though you're making a beautiful life in your own place. Which doesn't mean to say you shouldn't do it. You need to go past it. So this is about understanding and confronting power. Unless we understand where power lies and how it works, and do all these things, nothing will ever change in a fundamental way for the most vulnerable people in this world and for the beautiful earth on which we live. We're all asked to identify what might be wrong with our theory. What I think is what I'm talking about here in 10 to 15 minutes is just tiny. It's just the tip of an iceberg. And I think it may be the same for all the other speakers. I saw Steve didn't quite make it through his slides. Because I think probably all of us have spent our lives working for change in various ways, and trying to sum it up in this tiny little time is really difficult. So I'm really conscious what I've talked about is just a tip, and that our path in change in the world, if we take it seriously and truly confront capitalism and we truly want to move beyond it, it is complex, it's pragmatic, and it's really dangerous. And one theory will never do it. We need many, but just one. It's really cool having this meeting today. So structural change is essential, and we need our own organisations if we are going to build counter-power or hegemony, as some of us would call it. Some of my conclusions: we have to go beyond what we can conceive of mentally now. We have to keep pushing the boundaries of our thinking in every way. We need to go beyond the individual, making good ethical decisions, whether it's about recycling or about how we bring up our children or whatever it is. That's good and important, but we have to go beyond it and beyond market solutions. Politics doesn't have to stay like it is. We should never just accept, vote for Labour because it's better than National, as Chris Trotter told me the other day on Twitter. That's his ultimate political argument. We should support Labour because it's a lesser evil than National, and that's where all the left should be putting its energy now. We need really good leadership and accept that leadership is needed, but an enabling kind of leadership, not hierarchical and not invisible either. It needs to be accountable, visible and shared. If we care about those who have least and not about the natural world, we have to take sides. We can't be neutral, we have to take sides. And we need to be brave and full of hope. Kia ora whanau.